Hey, what's up everybody? PDL44 coming at you in another video. Alright, I got a bunch of clothes to put away and all this different stuff. Just got through doing laundry and I don't necessarily want to do it at this moment. So I figured, hey, let me turn on the camera, give myself an excuse to put it off for another 30 minutes or so. So, NBA stuff. Check this out. So, from what I understand, the Philadelphia 76ers, the words are seriously considering relocating to New Jersey. I guess they're trying to get a new building in Philadelphia and can't seem to get approval or funding or something of that nature. I'm not really sure the details of the situation, but they can't seem to get their new building, and ownership is trying to basically say, yo, we will move. I think it's a poor decision to leave Philadelphia, but I think it's even poorer decision to go to New Jersey. Brooklyn left New Jersey for a reason. The Nets left New Jersey for a reason. They left New Jersey because they couldn't get the support necessary from what I understand, the fans. They didn't show up very much. They weren't, it wasn't that big of a draw. And when you talk about the Philadelphia 76ers, if you move the 76ers out of New Jersey, it doesn't necessarily mean that anybody's going to stop being a Sixer fan in Philadelphia. It just means they have to drive an hour or two to get to the games. And it may work, but changing the name to New Jersey 76ers, I don't think that would be the best move. Dissolving the 76er name and brand, I don't think is a good decision either. And so that's my point of view. I do appreciate the idea that they're not moving too far away from Philadelphia so that their fans can see the team. They ain't moving them like Alabama or something like that, moving to Vegas. But I don't know that Philadelphia should be moving to Jersey. I don't think the team should be moving to Jersey, rather. So I don't know, man. That seems a little strange to me. I don't know enough about it to know if it's smart to say they're bluffing or not. But I do have my doubts that that'll actually end up happening. But it is something to keep your eye on. Philadelphia 76ers could potentially be the New Jersey 76ers, or I don't know how they will go about it, Camden, whatever they want to use, 76ers, or change the name entirely, maybe even turn them in. I don't know. They still have the Nets in Brooklyn, but that's what the word is, man. The Sixers could be moving to NJ. So I don't know, man. I'm not so sure that's a really good decision, to be honest with you. On the ownership's part, man, I don't think so. I don't know how bad they need a facility. I've obviously never been to their center. But if it's as pressing as to say, if I don't have a new building, I'm moving out, then that seems like a little bit of a stretch. Pouring money into renovations may be the smarter move if you don't necessarily want to move and you really need a new building. Just pour $1 billion into the building you have. New seats, new everything. Just redo the structure of the entire thing. Move to New Jersey for like a year, while you try to fix the building up that you have. Pour $1 billion into the building. Fix everything that needs to be fixed, and you won't need to build a new building. And funding for a new building can be a lot. I don't know that renovations is going to be much cheaper. I don't know. But if they're just not giving you the land, if you can't get the land, then just fix the building you got. Just like they're doing with Madison Square Garden. I think people are looking at what the Clippers arena is and saying we got to keep up with the Clippers. But Ballmer has unlimited pockets. So if he doesn't want you to keep up with him, you never will. That's the reality of it. He's always going to have this most state-of-the-art stuff if he chooses to, because the man's worth like almost $1 trillion. So, it's one of those situations where you're not going to really be able to keep up with him no matter what. So that's something that really needs to be kind of considered. I know people are looking at that new Inglewood building and seeing all of the state-of-the-art stuff that they got in that place, and it is going to be something special. But nah. And another thing I'm paying attention to is Paul George signed a 4-year deal with the Sixers, 5-year deal, something like that. To find himself in a situation where he may be relocated to New Jersey. I don't know how he feels about that. I don't know if it matters much. I don't think he's really lived in the East Coast before anyway. What's the difference between New Jersey and Philly if you're an LA dude who doesn't know the area? I don't know if there's that much of a difference as it pertains to you relocating to the newness of it all. But I do think that there's something to be said for a guy thinking he's going to be spending the next several years in Philly and ends up having to be about an hour away. So that could be interesting. And the culture may be a little different, even though it's close proximity. I do believe the culture in Jersey is a bit different than that from which is Philadelphia. So I don't know, man. That's going to be something to pay attention to if you're an NBA fan. I don't know how soon they would be moving. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know that they believe they can get a new building in Jersey. Maybe that's the deal breaker, the fact that they may be able to build a building in Jersey. So, I don't know. I have no idea. Don't have enough information. I'm just going by what was posted there, and I'm curious to see what happens from here. So, I don't think it'll affect Joel Embiid's desire to be a Sixer. I think he's a Sixer lifer unless something weird happens. I really do. Same thing with Tyrese Maxey. I'm pretty sure those guys would stay. It's just not that big of a relocation. It's not like Seattle to Oklahoma. It's not a big relocation. So I think it could be a little frustrating for fans having to cross state lines just to go to their games. But Raider fans do it. You know what I mean? That's what it really comes down to. Raider fans have been dealing with that crap every 7 years. The team leaves where they're at and goes somewhere else. Maybe they stick around in Vegas for a little while, but in Oakland, LA, Oakland, Vegas, Raider fans are used to driving five hours to get to their games. It just is what it is. I don't think Philadelphia 76er fans have ever had to deal with that, and I don't think they're looking forward to it. I think the Sixers have actually been in Philly since like the 50s or something. It's one of the more long-standing teams in the NBA. So yeah, it kind of sucks for them. It really does. But yeah, that's one thing I'm looking at. What else is going on, man? Listening to Laker talk conversations, and people are essentially just trying to get through the next 30 days before training camp begins, which is probably like 2 weeks, but trying to get through the next 30 days for which preseason will start, and talking about different players that the Lakers should have gotten. And I think one guy that's name is starting to pop up again is Miles Turner, because he's on an expiring contract at this point at $19 million. Seems like that would be a pretty easy thing to trade for if Indy's interested. My thing is, I don't believe Indy will be interested. He's re-signed with that team several times. He was drafted by them. There is a premium on centers at this point, especially ones who could block shots and shoot the three. And they're a team that just made the Eastern Conference Finals. So as far as I could tell, he sat through all the dark days of Indy's tenure. Why leave when they just finally get good enough to really be a noteworthy team again? You know, that's the thing. It's like you're going to sit there for 15 years or however long he's been in the league, through all the years where they weren't very good, just to bounce when they finally are good enough to maybe do something? You re-signed with him all this time. Why wouldn't he re-sign now? I just don't think they have a whole lot of evidence to feel pressed to move his expiring contract. I think it's more likely you see him get an extension somewhere within the season than him actually getting moved. I really don't think it's realistic. I don't. I would have said so maybe 2 years ago before he signed his last extension with the Pacers, but at this point, like I said, they're just coming off the Eastern Conference Finals. The East didn't get that much better. Philly got a little better with PG going there. Boston's still Boston. New York, you could argue, may have gotten better. But I think that the Eastern Conference, basically in what they're used to, should pretty much be the same conference, and they should pretty much feel confident that they got better because they had a good draft. They have some young players that are developing, like Ben Mathurin, Jarris Walker, Andrew Nembhard. So the future is bright in Indy, very bright. Tyrese Halliburton's barely reaching his prime, like probably now. I don't see any real reason to leave Indy. His path to his minutes in his starter position is still very strong. It's just he set through all the worst of it. It's time to enjoy your time in Indy for a change. With all due respect, they finally got an era where they're probably going to win another 45 to 50 games this year and make the playoffs for certain. I don't see any reason for a guy like Miles Turner, who's been there his whole career, to now leave, go somewhere else from which he's never played, and then have to reestablish himself. Arguably in a worse situation, to be honest with you, depending on where he goes. So it's like I I hear people who are saying, yo, the Lakers might be able to trade for the expiring contract of Miles Turner. But then I say, if I'm the Pacers, as much as I value this dude as a Pacer lifer and a guy who's made an all-star team for us, in an era where everybody wants a center because centers are starting to flush into the league, why am I moving him for anything less than like 2 picks and a player? Like, not to say that I think he's worth that, but in this climate, yeah, you have to give me more than what you want to give me if I'm giving up Miles Turner if I'm the Pacers. With all of the things that I said considered, yeah, I'm not about to move him for a salary match, fam. You got to give me some real stuff. And given I'm a win now basketball team, I'm moving away from the win now timeline if I'm moving him for picks. So, like, not to mention that I move him and now I need a center because Jarris Walker is undersized 4. So I could argue they probably need another center backing him up. So it's like the last thing they need to be doing is moving on from Miles Turner. Even as an expiring contract, wondering if he'll resign. As a team that's trying to win a championship right now, you're not going to move your centerpiece in this era. You'd rather keep him for the duration of the contract, have him for the playoffs, for which you hope to be a winner, and then negotiate with him after that. It probably means more to you for your roster this year to keep him throughout the course of the entire season. That's essentially what I'm saying. Unless something goes wrong as to where you find yourself being a losing team, which I really don't anticipate with this Pacer team. Not at all. In fact, they're probably the forgotten contender in the league right now. So I just don't. Nah, I'm not. I'm not rolling. I don't think it's realistic that Miles Turner moves on from the Indiana Pacers this year, unless they just lowball him on his money. And they haven't done that up until this point. Why would they wait until they need him to do that? No, they definitely need him right now because it's time to win. So yeah, that doesn't. I give that like a 3% chance. To be honest with you, I just don't see that being a real thing. Him expiring under those circumstances, all that means is he's resigning. That's literally all that means. So yeah, I don't see that being an option. But if I'm wrong, I'll be extremely pleased about that. If the Lakers happen to get him for under 2 picks, which is like I said, I don't see that. So yeah, no, I'm happy to be wrong, but I don't believe I am. Not on this one. So don't count him in as a Laker anytime soon. Even though there's always a chance that somebody moves an expiring contract if they get cold feet about whether or not that player will resign. But I just don't see any tea leaves pointing against him resigning. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. Unless he expects to get overpaid somewhere else, which I also don't expect at all. So, no, he ain't going nowhere. So, yeah, man, that's something I'm paying attention to. And as far as the Lakers are concerned, as I think about D'Angelo Russell and his situation, I want to know what the landscape is for guys that would be willing to play the point guard position for the Lakers after this season. Because in some weird way, that Lakers situation is almost like Miles Turner's situation, in a sense that we haven't been able to get anything from D'Angelo Russell within reason. And and mind you, I don't think our GM is necessarily thinking this way. I just think this is what it's going to turn out to be for our GM, Rob Pelinka, when he starts to look at the whole landscape. But D'Angelo Russell is a player that probably means more to your team than he does on the market. And I don't know that you can replace D'Angelo Russell with a point guard that's going to be able to play as well as D'Angelo Russell going forward. Jalen Hood-Schifino, you don't expect for him to make a massive jump into that role. This season, you definitely don't expect that he'll be ready the following season to be that player unless he does something that I don't see coming. He's just not. He's not going to be that. And you're still going to have a limited amount of trade assets come the end of this season for which to trade for Trae Young or whoever the young point guard would be, star point guard. You're not going to be able to go after LaMelo Ball or Tyrese Halliburton or any marquee point guard in my mind. I don't see it. Not without parting with just about everything you have to move, which the Lakers were reluctant to do this year. I'd imagine they're going to be reluctant to do at the end of this season. So the way it's set up is I don't know. This brain is not aware of who all will be available come next summer at the point guard position that would be willing to sign with the Lakers and be a running mate for LeBron James. I think there's a decent chance that if that free agent pool is scarce, that the Lakers give D'Angelo Russell a like 2 or 3 year deal extension. And I know a lot of Laker fans are like, no, hell no, we don't want that. Some people are, they can't play in the playoffs, this and the third. But the reality is, you don't really have a path to an upgrade unless you're attaching assets that you're irresponsible for moving. And that's really what it comes down to. And that is not going to change at the end of the season. You may have more picks from which to trade, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you to move more those picks. And that's not what Laker fans want to hear, but we're in the apron era, man. And that means that movement is minimal, whether you like it or not. And I need people to understand this. I do not expect many trades around the NBA as long as this apron crap is in place. People are going to have cold feet at all times. You get penalized for doing certain things that people would be willing to do before this collective bargaining agreement. So over the next 2 years, while this thing is still in motion, I would be surprised if we see 10 trades in 2 years, literally. I don't think teams are going to be having a whole lot of wiggle room to move. And I think it's going to be extremely dead trade deadline. I think that. I think it's going to be a lot of re-signings. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be a lot of that. And if people want to overpay for stuff or want to move picks, for which is not responsible to do for most teams, or strengthen contenders, which who the hell wants to do that, you're going to see not a lot of movement. It's just the era you're in. It's just the restrictions of the collective bargaining agreement that the NBA has agreed upon at this point. So I think the likelihood that D'Angelo Russell, if they don't find something that they like in regards to trading him, will probably re-sign him to a multi-year deal and allow him to grow into that point guard as he exits his prime. I really think that. Because when you consider the upgrade opportunities, you're not going to find someone who's going to be willing to give you a trade that you're going to like. Now, you may be able to find someone who will want to force their way to your team, but that doesn't seem as likely to me as you not finding what you need in the point guard position and probably being wiser for re-signing a guy like D'Angelo. So I know that's not popular. That's not ideal in my head, but I do think it's probably the most realistic path, man. That if he has a really solid season with the Lakers and continues to show that he can do certain things that can't be taught, if the Lakers can't find a way to upgrade their point guard position, it's probably more responsible to re-sign him than it is to move him and picks for some guy. It probably is more responsible to do it that way. And then see what he's worth with it, the following year under contract. So I don't know, man. I mean, it's me thinking way ahead, but I totally see D'Angelo Russell being a Laker past his contract right now. I totally see it. I just don't see a path to us getting that point guard. Jalen Hood-Schifino is a young player who could potentially develop into being a point guard starter for us. But it seems like the Lakers are not totally against moving him now. So that's something that I'm also paying attention to. I think it's a chance that Jalen probably moves on before he fully develops. So that's another thing. I was going to say something else about Jalen, I believe. As I've mentioned a million times, that he was drafted a rookie, a freshman from college at like 19 years of age. So the likelihood that he's going to take 2 or 3 years to fully develop is a real thing. So if you're thinking that you can move on from D'Angelo Russell and maybe have Jalen be that starter, first of all, I don't think most of Laker Nation even thinks he's that good. He is good enough to potentially be that, but I don't think most people think that. But if you are thinking that, or you're hopeful of that, I don't think he's going to be ready in time for your situation with D'Angelo. I don't think he's going to be ready in time. I could be wrong, but and as I've said many times, even if he didn't have the back injury, I never thought of him as a starter anyway. I don't think he develops into a career starter. I think he develops into a career backup with high-level ability, a nice 8th man, 9th man, if he develops properly. That's what I drafted him to be. That's what I had in mind when we drafted him, which is why I didn't want to draft him, if I'm being honest with you. I knew we needed a natural born point guard, somebody that we could have grow in our system as a starting type point guard. I just didn't think he was that. And so that's why I would have never left Cam Whitmore on the board with him also being available to me. There's no way. Cam Whitmore is totally a higher upside, more ready to help you guy than Jalen was ever expected to be. So that's why I never got that. I never understood that. People who like Podziemski as well, if y'all know, I like Podziemski as well. Jaime Jaquez I wasn't as high on. I think I probably would have been higher on him this year coming into this particular draft, because I just had a more of a appreciation and respect for four-year college guys as to which when Jaime was drafted. I didn't have as much of respect for that. But Jaime Jaquez to me always reminded me of like a Paul Pierce, poor man's Paul Pierce. And I think that's exactly what he's going to turn into. I really do. But that wasn't necessarily the piece I think the Lakers needed as much as that high-level athlete, dunking guy like I think Cam Whitmore is going to be from here on out. So I always regret the Lakers not taking Cam Whitmore specifically. That's who I think should have been taken with the 17th overall pick. And I'm going to stand on that until players prove me otherwise. So that's how I feel. And nothing has wavered me from that. I'd still take Cam Whitmore over Podziemski and Jaime Jaquez today. I'd still do that. So yeah, man, that's how I feel, man. But we took Jalen, and so we'll see what happens with Jalen. Hopefully, he turns out to be better than I expected him to be initially. I know he's putting in work. Hopefully, his back holds up since he's had back surgery now. That's also something that frustrates me a bit when considering the long-term upside of this player. But the outlook of Jalen reinforces the D'Lo hypothesis. That's what I'm saying to you. I don't have that much of a high upside for Jalen. I don't think Bronny is the answer at point guard. I don't. I don't see the path to that point guard. So that's pretty much what I'm saying. I do want the Lakers to put the ball in Bronny's hands and try to develop him into a point guard. I do want to see that. I was upset that we didn't do that in the summer league. And it may be even more necessary to do that now than it was when we drafted him, to be honest with you. Now we see how things are starting to pan out as it pertains to that point guard position. So that's a really important position, man. Gabe Vincent's going to probably be here until we can raise his value to trade him, but I don't look at him as a point guard, sort of like Bronny. I just look at him as a two guard in a point guard's body. That's not my favorite build, as you guys know. So it is what it is, man. These are the type of things that we're considering. I don't think D'Lo is somebody the Lakers are going to be moving on from as quickly as maybe Laker Nation would like to see at this point. So, yeah, man, we'll see what happens. But that is generally the thought at this point. I guess I'll get back to my laundry duties and things that have to be done. But I wanted to leave you guys with this video. And if anything else pops up, I will speak about it. Video 44, I thank you all for watching.